Welcome back to American Medicine Today. So President Biden recently raised concern with parents across the country for saying that their children were everyone's children when they were at school, and not necessarily the parents themselves. I find this extremely troubling. Joining us right now is returning guest Sam Sorbo, filmmaker, radio host, actress, and author of They Are Your Kids. She also happens to be married to our friend actor Kevin Sorbo. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
It's great to be here.
Tell us what exactly he said and why you believe parents are so completely offended.
Well, if I remember correctly, what he said was to a room full of teachers, when the children are in the classroom, they belong to you, meaning they don't belong to the parents anymore. Mm-hmm. He literally transferred the property, but he doesn't have the right to do that. And there were a lot of parents who were very upset about that. But it goes to speak to the bigger picture that we have here of the fact that the state believes somehow that they have the right to control children. And we've seen this in other people saying similar things. And, Melissa Harris Perry saying we have to get away from the notion that children belong more to the society in general than to their parents. We look at this and we go, heck no, I take responsibility for my children. They are mine. They are my responsibility and they're my joy. And you can't have them.
Well, all the way back to the 90s, wasn't it Hillary Clinton that wrote the It Takes a Village book? Which, on the surface, it's a good sentiment that everyone, looks out for everyone else and helps kind of parent and coach and be there.
Until you realize they're being indoctrinated.
The fact that teachers now, they think that the children belong to them, or at least that seems to be the attitude that is most prevalent. And therefore, they have a right to talk to children about all kinds of things that they really shouldn't be bringing up in the classroom, particularly the sex ed stuff that they're bringing into children's lives way too early. And it's just completely inappropriate. In fact, I don't know why we have this big push for transgender when you have men dressed in drag, so they're drag queens, entertaining children sitting on their laps. If they changed clothes and they were just older men entertaining children sitting on their laps, we would say that's not appropriate. But somehow he puts on a dress and we're going, oh, what a lovely thing. No. This is completely misguided. And the children are the ones that are going to suffer the most from this.
Well, not only that, but when they're teaching about transgender or whether or not you're gay or straight or pan, all these different things, you're confusing these kids. These are young children, highly impressionable, that may hold a classmate's hand or their friend's hand, and there's nothing sexualized about it. But if they're told, hey, you're holding hands with the same gender, you must be gay. Now you're labeling them and you're making them question themselves. It's insanity.
I think it's actually even, in a sense, more perverted than that, because what you're doing is you're sexualizing the children.
Yes,
that's a you problem, but you're making it a them problem. You're making it the children's problem because you're introducing these subjects when they don't have the bandwidth. They're not emotionally developed enough to actually properly think about these things. It's a very terrible thing.
We are creating individuals that they are mentally insane talking about sex. The major trouble with this is everybody in the between the 10 and the 15, they have some type of doubts because it's the maturity of your hormones. That is normal.
There was another instance in one of the school systems where they're giving the students perverted, sexualized assignments. And when the parents confront the school board, the mics are muted because, oh my gosh, it's so terrible. They can't talk about it.
There was a woman who was reading from a 5th grade book, and it was so pornographic, they turned her mic off. They said, you can't read that here. She said, it's in the school.
Yes.
And the justification was, well, there's only one book in the library. It has no business in the school, but this is why my mission is to empower parents to home educate their children. I don't believe children belong in the school institutions at all.
Amen.
I think that our schools have been off the rails for a very long time. And I'm actually, strangely, I'm grateful to COVID for sort of bringing this to the fore where people can see that there's stuff going on in the schools that you definitely don't agree with.
Yes.
And in fact, they really shouldn't be jumping through the hoops of the institution, because as you can see, the institutions are they're getting it completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The argument is they haven't gotten it right for decades. This isn't a new thing.
We need to understand that this is one of the steps of indoctrination of the country. If we do not understand that, then we will always try to justify and try to put why this is happening.
We've been trained by the schools to not criticize the schools. We've been trained.
Yes.
And you talk about indoctrination. Indoctrination is just teaching. There's a doctrine that is a set of beliefs, and you indoctrinate your child. In theory, as the parent, you should be indoctrinating your own children into your beliefs. But instead, you're allowing other people, strangers, I would say, to indoctrinate your children. The idea that I'm trying to get across to these parents is there is so much wrong there. It's not worth salvaging. And in fact, it's child abuse. So just pull your kids away from the child abusers, bring them home, and you can actually do this, because what they're doing in schools is the opposite of education. So the first thing you learn in school is what? What are you supposed to do when you want to ask a question? Everybody knows the answer. You have to raise your hand to ask a question, right? And this is a visceral lesson that you've just learned, that in order to ask a question, there's a barrier to entry. You have to do something. You have to ask permission. You have to draw attention to yourself. All of these things form a barrier to the actual act of asking a question. So it's a deterrent. So the first thing you learn in school is don't question.
Yes.
Right.
That's the opposite of education.
Correct.
Agreed.
When you take education home, it becomes so much more than you ever imagined it could be. It is so much better than anything that they can possibly offer in the schools. Once you start, you realize it's just a completely different path. And it's a much easier path. And it's a much more enjoyable path, actually, than waking up at the crack of dawn, getting your kids breakfast, getting them dressed to go to school, remembering to, pack the bag lunch and drop them off at school and wait in the line and have the parent-teacher conferences and do the bake sales. And you can skip all of that and have a lot more fun with your kids. Hopefully you had kids because you wanted to have kids.
Yes.
And this is an opportunity to enjoy them. And so we'll cast the vision for you. You can get it done. Let's go to samsorbo.com for all the details.
Thank you so much, Sam Sorbo, for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit us here on American Medicine Today.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching American Medicine Today. Make sure you check us out next Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the number below. You can tweet at Dr. Bonati using hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you.